It is my privilege to introduce you Major General Nitin Gadkari, the Director of PIC, a distinguished veteran of the Indian Army with 37 years of service. Currently serving as the Director of Pune International Center with a career dedicated to national service. Major General Gadkari has brought his leadership and strategic expertise to key initiatives at PIC, contributing to policy discussions on national security, governance, and development. His experience and insights continue to shape thought leadership at PIC, making him an invaluable asset to the organization and beyond. He has also authored an outstanding Indian book named Outstanding Indian Achievers and Their Quest for an Atmanirbhar Bharat, reflecting his commitment to India's self reliance. We are honored to have him with us today. Please join me in welcoming Major General Nitin Gadkari.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like an externality that Dr. Anade was talking about. Something which is unintended, but it happens. So I'm neither an expert on environment nor a speaker, but then I'm the director here. So I've been asked to conclude the session. Thankfully, Gurdas is with me, so he'll help me out. So the good part about conclusion always is if you don't say anything, people will say there was nothing to say, so it's all right. If you say something, you say he said the same thing what others said, nothing new. So please bear with me. What I think we should do is I have noted down some key sentences or whatever you may say from speakers. I just read them out, and then you possibly could take them from there. Maybe being from the armed forces, I'll add a word or two about what does the armed forces do for environment. Okay, as I was sitting, I was noting down, knowing very well that the evening my turn is coming. So there are some sentences which I thought are catchy, so I picked them up. And the first came from none else than Dr. Mashelkar, and it says, it's not the crisis of nature, it's the crisis of leadership. I don't think there could be a more telling sentence. It's not a distant, slow motion, catastrophic. It's a crisis, and it is now. It's a distant, slow moving, catastrophic crisis, and it is happening now. Coming to Shri Madhav Gadgil, he spoke so beautifully about everything, but one thing that struck me much is India is the aerosol capital of the world, which leads to water vapor, which leads to more rain in shorter periods, which leads to intense floods, landslides, breaches of bunds, and collapsing of buildings. That TV image can never go out from your mind. Coming to Dr. Krishnan, 45% increase in greenhouse gases has taken place in the last 20 years, and India is the third most largest contributor. 1 degree rise in temperature will increase rainfall by 7%. Coming to Dr. Ranade, and I was feeling guilty all the while sitting here. I think he was quoted out of context. I like to defend him since he's not here. He did not mean that in terms so much of climate change as an externality which happens to anyone. What even Mahesh referred to as radioactivity, everyone emits. It was in the same sense. He was quoted out of context, I think, and whosoever said that may please reconsider. But what he said was very novel. And zero growth concept surely is novel, but surely something that we all need to think about. It's probably one of the ways to mitigate the damage that we already done. Then is the examples of Netherlands and Sweden. 110% of wastage, that means 10% importing of wastage and treating it. And the most telling of his was stealing not from the younger generation, but from the ones who are unborn. Those who still have to come. And the 3 words of morality, justice, and fairness. Then was the panel discussion, which brought out so many ideas for societal response. Rural areas, climate change and its measure affect the poor people first, and they are never taken into consideration when policy changes are made. Women are one of the worst affected due to anything, whether it's climate change or policy due to climate change, and gender never figures as a factor in taking policy decisions. I think it's a very telling statement again. There was a suggestion of credit system somewhere from the audience, incentivizing of credits, and I think it's my opinion that without incentive, nothing will work. Somewhere we have to think of incentivizing every climate change initiative that we do, starting from our home. It came out later in the last panel discussion also. The next, Aditi Kale, prepare for new uncertainties, mental and psychological impact of not only climate change, but also the measures taken due to climate change. Very, very obvious, and yet it never figures into any one of our, any discussions. Conscious consumerism, a word that I picked up, conscious consumerism. Anaga Paranspe, I think the one who commented on Dr. Ajit Ranade, but she made some valid, very valid. No, it was not that. She was talking on urbanization. I think she had some disagreement coming from the house, and she was talking about how urbanization is growing so rapid that today we are about 36%, and another 20 years later would be 50% coming from 530 million to 900 million people living in urban cities. And there is an acute shortage or shortfall of urban data. We are talking about urbanization, as she says, all the time, but we have no statistics, no data to prove whether we are right, wrong, good, bad, ugly. Priyadarshini Karve, she made some very valid points, and the points which even Dr. Rana made or somebody else made, that politics is fueled by oil companies and climate change is a function of politics. So how do we control oil companies and their influence on politics? That was what she was talking about, climate injustice that is happening. And finally, this total sustainability. Gurdas made an excellent commentary on economics and how climate change can be looked at from economics point of view. And probably one of the most engaging conversations or engaging speech was given by Milton Nag. Is that Milton? Milan Nag, coming from the plastic industry. And he said it as much, he accepted it that plastics is a no-no word today, but probably it's a matter of perception, and that there is a good plastic, there is bad plastic, and the good plastic can be recycled and can be used. And he gave that example of how machineries were imported from Netherlands, Denmark, and subsequently how they were used to refurbish or recycle thermocol, which was collected from the streets of Pune, from rivers and houses, and the initiative that this company had taken. Very laudable. Nitan's comment that everyone is a dreamer, I like that. Solar energy is sufficient in India, and if we use only solar energy, India can sustain for another 7.5 years. Another statement, very strong statement, I would say. And finally, Mahesh, who made an excellent case on small modular nuclear reactors, plants, and coming from defense, I know both the importance, use, and how much we can use it in civilian form. And I totally agree with you as to they should be used. But the more valid point you made was, there cannot be a single source of energy that you can rely on. It has to be a composite whole, and demand management, that I don't know whether you made that point. The demand management is going to become one of the major important functions as to how do we cater for demand and not only the supply side. It has to be the demand side that needs to be looked at as we go ahead in future. And I thought that's what summed up the entire discussions and debate today. If I missed out anything, I request Gurdas to.
No, I think you did a great comprehensive job of summarizing that, and I have nothing to add except just one sentence. We many times as a developing nation we hide behind the fact saying that our per capita consumption of fossil fuel is still very low. Our per capita consumption of energy is low. We generate the least amount of waste per capita, so on and so forth. We have seen these arguments come by, but in this conference of climate emergency, I want to make this point that for the planet, it's aggregate which matters, not per capita. And as a country, we are huge. So that is the climate emergency that we are facing. Thank you.